Hello, it's George from Australia, and welcome to Gaming My Whole Life, where I discuss everything video game related, past, present, and future. Ladies and gentlemen, we definitely have a retro video today. We're discussing Dead or Alive 2 that originally came out on the PlayStation 2. Now, as much as I enjoy bunny hopping between old retro games and talking about modern cutting-edge technology games and so forth, I have to say this retro visit was very, very interesting because one, I had not played Dead or Alive 2 since it was the new thing on the PS2, so it had been forever, but I had very, very strong memories of things that I liked. You know, I really, being a young boy, obviously I really liked how attractive the female characters looked. I really liked the design of the male characters. They just looked really cool. There was like a Bruce Lee character and this black guy and this other guy with like huge muscles and so forth. So character design across the board was really good. What stood out was how fast hidden the counters, the animations. I just remember it was this blow. It was just this rush of what I honestly thought was the peak of a 3D fighting game, right? Like I dead set remember looking at Dead or Alive 2, and keep in mind we had just left the PS1 and Nintendo 64 generation, right? So we were used to our characters in fighting games literally looking like Lego pieces, like they were that blocky. And when I played Dead or Alive 2 at my friend's house on his PS2, on his TV, I remember thinking and having this conversation with him, video game graphics are never going to look any better. Like that's how impactful it was, what? Everything blew me away. But of course, that was like, what, 20 years ago or something, at least 15, like forever ago, right? So I thought, it's always interesting to see how does that hold up compared to reality. And ladies and gentlemen, I can confirm this game is freaking amazing, even by today. I kid you not. This game, if they just release an HD version or whatever and people got to play it, this is brilliant by today's standards, and I'm not even saying that as a fanboy. So I'm going to go over all the many things that make this game so fantastic, such a rush, so ahead of its time as well. This was a complete joy, I just have to say. And if you're new here to my channel and you enjoy retro videos, but you also enjoy a YouTuber who doesn't limit himself just to retro but also covers modern topics, feel free to subscribe as I release multiple videos every single day. And feel free to go through that lefty backlog. With that being said, let's get to today's topic. I have to say, Dead or Alive 2 never holds back. My first like 6 matches, I had my ass handed to me. I was beaten down so much, nothing was held back. I had trouble adjusting to how fast this game moved. I had to go into like a special, practice mode just so I can get my head around the controls because it is so much faster than Tekken, then Street Fighter, then Mortal Kombat. Frankly, this version of Dead or Alive 2, it's faster than any fighting game we currently play today. Like, it is just insane how fast you do the combos, right? So at first it's not user friendly, it will whoop you, it will send you flying, you have no idea what's going on, right? Like, you've barely established, what even the block button is, and you are down and out. But the game is so fast and everything backs it up, right? It is so smooth, the animations are fantastic. Every single character can do a counter move, right? And it is very hard to land counters, right? So counter is when they're about to punch you, for example. You press back and the block button at the same time. Your character does a little bit of a flinch. Regardless of the move, as long as you do a high counter, which is your standard, or low one, you will grab them and a unique animation will play out. Maybe you'll grab their arm and bend it backwards, flip them over, whatever. But every single attack from the enemy has a counter animation, so it feels really rewarding to do whenever you do pull it off. It does not slow down the pace of the combat whatsoever, and it feels like a rush, like you are smashing the punch button, the kick button, the counter button, right? Like you were terrified, and it is one of the biggest rushes as far as fighting games goes. Like, I'm generally blown away just how excited this game made me feel, and it did a lot, so much, right? Like, for example, every single stage merges into other stages. You can be fighting on top of a mountain, right, surrounded by like a wooden fence just holding you guys in. Kick the other person through that fence, you go flying down, you land in a completely different arena, you jump down after them, you keep fighting, you can hit them again. Like, some levels, I kid you not, have like 4 or 5 layers where you can just keep knocking the character into different arenas, right? So that adds a lot of replay value by itself, because you'll be playing a stage you think you're very familiar with, you'll get knocked over for the first time or in a different direction, all of a sudden it turns out there's a whole other section you have never even seen. Now the character roster is really good because every single character is unique from the other. They all come with their own different playstyles. So if you like the fast ninja type, you are covered. If you like the slow hitters, you are covered. If you like the wrestlers more with the grappling moves, you are covered. You want the in-betweens, you are covered. You know, they all look very different. It's very nice to look at. Each character, the men and women, start with 2 default costumes, but then after you beat the arcade mode, you unlock a third you unlock a third costume for all of the characters, which is good. They look drastically different. There's also different game modes, a lot of game modes, which makes this game very generous. So apart from the fact the smooth animations, the counters, the beating, the rush, the graphics, that everything which they already did brilliantly, there was a lot of game modes. So I'm just going to look at the side here for a second. So you have the story mode, right? You have your versus mode, so you can play against each other. You have an action replay mode, which is pretty cool. It really showed off the graphics, which you were already perving on so much because it looks so nice. You can have a battle against a computer or against a friend or whatever, and you can rotate the camera, you can pause it, you can zoom into wherever you want. So like if you were like a kid playing the PS2, you know, boy or girl, you were just drooling over the graphics. The fact that all the way back on the PS2 era, right, where camera modes and rewind things didn't really exist for the most part, the fact that this drop dead gorgeous game let you admire the game from every single angle, you know, taking the graphics, absolutely wonderful. There's your usual team mode, which is great. You're probably familiar with it because of Tekken team mode. You pick like 5 guys, they pick 5 guys, and you fight against each other. When your character loses, then the next one goes in, and it's whoever beats the entire team and how long your individual fights can last. The best mode, the most fun mode, which is just brilliant, is called Survivor, right? So Survivor is an never-ending mode where you start in the basic arena, you fight against someone, you pick your character, whatever, you beat them. When you beat them, right, an item sort of like comes out of them, right? And that item can give you a little bit of health or a little bit of a higher score or whatever, right? Now, when you beat that other character and then that item comes out of them, then another character, no loading screen whatsoever, mind you, then another character jumps into the arena, and then another, and then another, and then another. So you're having this rush of just the fact that the game is so fast, you know. It even had the option back then, which was impressive, where you could choose, do you want to play this game at 50 hertz or 60 hertz? The footage which I captured was 60 because it allowed me to do that, right? So it's already a fast game, then it literally gives you a faster frame rate mode to show that off. And Survivor just being all these different characters, you know. And the thing is, every time a new character jumped into the arena, in case I wasn't clear, you don't magically then get all your health back, right? So if you've like really struggled beating like your third character, and then the fourth one jumps in and you have this much health, well, you're screwed. You just have to make do, right? And the better you do in that, the more costumes you unlock in that mode as well, you know. And it's an old game, so you can Google you know, cheat codes and this and that, save yourself the trouble. But this game is just an absolute delight. Like, I totally understand now why I really liked this game when I was younger, right? And just very clever marketing, because the marketing focused a lot on the girls, so they got us young teenage boys, you know, easily. They sucked us in. But what they did though is they may have gotten our attention originally because of the girls, but then the moment you started playing the game, you're like, oh, this is actually brilliant. Like, the fighting is top notch. And I compare the fighting to, you know, the most recent Mortal Kombat and the most recent Street Fighter games. This is as solid and as smooth and fluent and all that good stuff as I remember, and I'm so pumped. And I lost so many times and I did not care because there was basically no loading screen up between matches. The moment you die, you know, you hit continue, bang, the match is there. It is so fast. It's sort of like when you're playing one of those online multiplayer games, and it makes or breaks the experience if you happen to die fast if there's a long loading screen. If you die within 30 seconds, and I kid you not, 30 seconds is actually a long lasting round because you get attacked so quickly. If you manage to, if you lose, and then say it would take even 10 seconds to get back into the match, that would break the momentum, right? That means you're spending like 1/3 of the time waiting. But in this game, you're not. You hit continue, bang, you're back into the action. It is so satisfying. And here it is, the original disc. I didn't even need to rebuy this like a lot of other retro titles have had to do. This was the original Dead or Alive disc I bought back in the day. Perfect condition, not a single scratch. I don't know how I managed it, but thank goodness. And a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of a teaser. I am considering doing this as my next retro video. So comment below, you know, let me know if you would like a you know, retro flashback of Resident Evil Outbreak File 2. I really like the old Resident Evil games. This is so old that this was still with the fixed camera angles and so forth, pre-rendered backgrounds, I believe, but I don't quite remember. I barely played this for some reason, so it would be like a rediscovery and new at the same time somehow. One thing which I have to say, which is just such a darn shame thinking about it, right? It's like, I've obviously complimented the absolute snot out of Dead or Alive 2, right? It's like such a fantastic game, and, you know, it almost sounds boring just how much I'm complimenting it, right? But that doesn't really seem to be the case anymore. Like, Dead or Alive as a series still exists, but the amount of microtransactions that is flooded, and I'm not even talking like, you know, Ubisoft level or whatever. I'm talking the game is famous for like having, you know, some of the most egregious, like you can literally spend like $1,000 or something just on like costumes and DLC and this and that. So that is really, really upsetting, because, you know, while I'm playing Dead or Alive 2, all I can think of, I do the gamer brain, is like, ooh, the series is still going today, I should go out and buy it. And you know, there's more DLC than there is game, and it's like, oh, what happened? Because that is a cheap trick, right? That is a cheap move to milk people for microtransactions in a game franchise which, as far back as the PS2, already had amazing combat mechanics down, right? Like, don't do the dodgy milking of this. Like, I'm gonna have a look at it, right? I can't help it. And I'm hoping, despite all odds, I'm hoping despite the fact that, you know, what are we up to? Dead or Alive 6, Dead or Alive 7. I'm hoping despite all the odds that, you know, maybe there's still a game there if you refuse to buy the DLC, but we shall see. Anyways, with that being said, thank you so much for letting me just nerd out and geek out with you, lovely ladies and gentlemen. I love playing these old games. I was so happy I could share this experience with you. And just let me know down below in the comment section. Nerd out with me, geek out with me. Let me know any future games you'd like me to cover. Let me know if you want me to cover that Resident Evil title I showed you just a moment ago, and also your memories of Dead or Alive 2. With that being said, you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you all live on this big boob planet of ours. God bless you all. Take care, and I'll see you for the next video here. Gaming My Whole Life. Remember, you guys, don't forget to subscribe. All right, see you all next time. Bye.